Get yourself a bottle of Hallelujah from all shops around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, hello there. It's another Tuesday right here. Good morning, Uganda, 17th of May, 2022. You're welcome and thank you for being part of us as early as right about now. And of course, like always, there are going to be 3 hours that are very informative for both you and me, and of course, inspirational as we go on. Well, my name is Philomena Mastiko, and it is Good Morning Uganda. Well, we are coming to you live from the UBC Auditorium, and well, just in case you want to pass by, you can always find us at Nile Avenue, just opposite the Parliament of Uganda. Well, a lot has happened in the country, I will tell you for sure. Yesterday, we had quite some sad happenings, but also some really surprising happenings. Things are not just happening for us here in Uganda as a country, but also looking at Kenya. Well, progress is already being made as they are trying to have an official countdown to get to their next presidential elections. And yesterday we did witness them choose, especially the presidential candidates, choose their running mates. And I'll tell you, it was quite interesting. The names that were chosen, well, very interesting. Kenyans had a lot to say about that, but we'll be giving you all the details and all those stories as Good Morning Uganda. But for us here as a country also, well, I'll tell you that some reports that are coming in from the Traffic Police Department are not exactly very interesting, and they're not very nice, which clearly shows that we as Ugandans are really deviating from what we should be doing, especially when it comes to the roads. Well, all those stories and many more we are going to be discussing. But for now, of course, I am in the company of Mollen, Kenyena, and Robert Kirabo. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning to you, Philo, Mollen, and our viewer. Thank you so much for waking up with us this morning. Well, Philo, for me, yesterday you talked about a number of things that did happen, but I'm wondering, when is this issue of striking or industrial action going to end? We are still having science teachers, much as they were assured that come the next financial year, they're saying they're waiting for a commitment later to be written, so they're still putting their tools down. Now there comes allied health workers. If a pregnant woman needs a scan, you go to the laboratories. You see, these are also now putting down their tools. So I'm wondering, what is going to happen? I'm told even another section of health workers are threatening still.
Yes.
So where did reason end? Do people have to fast? Really go for industrial action for their desires to be met? Then second, are we not considering that yes, we've just come out of COVID-19, equally government is stretched, 2 years, URA not meeting its target because of the challenges, and now here we are, people feel it is now or never.
Well, Robert, I will probably give you some of the feedback that I did pick from some of them, their reasons, because even the reasons you presented are valid. But I'll be telling you what they have to say. In the meantime, good morning, Mollen.
Yes, a very good morning to you, Philomena, Robert, and of course our audience. That is Good Morning Uganda family. Please, thank you very much for waking up with us. Oh, well, while it is a merry morning and all, these people are hurting, and there is a reason why they are taking it to a level of striking. That means government is not doing well on its pledges. And this is what gets us there, because even right now, schools have resorted to getting, student teachers to fill in the gaps, because obviously now it's the learners that are being affected by these strikes. And this is where government should really come in to address some of these issues. Otherwise, we're going to have more and more strikes, like Robert is saying, because more are going to threaten to strike. It seems to be like the routine that everyone is taking. But also, when we talk about road accidents, I did see a story where police is now also attributing cars being in poor mechanical conditions to be one of the reasons why we're having a lot of accidents. And they're also now calling on the UNBS, the National Bureau of Standards, to come in on board and work with them to make sure that cars that are on the road are in good mechanical conditions. Now, I don't know how this is going to be done, because I don't know whether someone has to stop you and they have to now check the quality of your tires to make sure that it is good for the road. Or even then, how far? So I'm waiting on to see what UNBS can actually come up with as, maybe the threshold. Okay, if your tires are in this condition, then you are allowed on the road.
Well, yes. Mollen and Philo, for me, I think police, they're just running away from their work. When you talk about old cars on the road, it is only corruption. It is only corruption, because ask yourself, what is the work of traffic officers? Almost at every joint center or highway, there are traffic officers. Yes. They have motorcycles. Some you can find even 4 or 5 standing at one point. In
one spot.
Yeah, you move around Kampala, you'll even wonder. They are now in white. They are so visible everywhere. But you know what happens is that khaki uniform, they have plasters on their shoes and what. But you know what happens is when they stop these DMCs, instead of saying this car is a DMC, you park it at the nearest police station, or a police officer sits in to ensure that this car is off the road unless they have either the tires, you've changed tires, or they find that it's in a real dangerous condition. It shouldn't be on the road. This is what happens. People have now learned to move with money. He knows there are about 5 spots where I'll find them. And funny, they are at those particular spots every day.
Yes.
So if you're coming to UBC, you will find them in about 2 spots. So a person just moved with like a 10K, 5. So he knows at one particular post, I'll give 5,
so
the other I'll give 5.
Yes.
If the tires maybe of their vehicle cost about 500. So at the 500,000. So this is the problem we are finding, that they shouldn't even bother UNBS, because UNBS looks at quality, and standards. So these cars may come in when the standard is okay, the quality is okay, because we don't import DMCs, much as our date from manufacture is still a number of years. But what happens is these cars get on the road. It is in Uganda you find a car that has been moving for the last 30 years. It was imported from Japan when it has moved for about 10 years. So our car is 40 years older than any of us here.
Well, clearly, Robert, I really agree with you on that.
And the police are just taking bribes.
But then there is also another reason that the police gave. Aside from cars being in such a bad and poor mechanical condition, they did say bad road or road signage usage is also a big problem. And honestly, I have seen this, I've experienced it, both from the people who are using the roads, as pedestrians and other motorists and cyclists and everybody else. For example, I'll say, if you're going to use a zebra crossing, okay, ideally any car that is supposed to be coming should probably stop and wait for you. But let me tell you, here on our Ugandan roads, that is a chance you cannot take. Okay, you actually have to run on this zebra crossing, because the speed at which people really drive at is very crazy. Kampala Road there is just one of the examples. Every single day I see people that are really scared and worried when it comes to crossing. Take also an example of one-way roads in Uganda. You cannot actually cross a one-way road and you think you're only going to look at one side. You actually have to look both ways, despite the fact that it is a one-way road, because people do not respect all these. A one-way road is going to be used by I don't know how many people, the different lanes on a one-way road. So clearly there is just a lot that we are yet. It's very, very
We
disappointing.
have our sirens, we are VIPs, we don't respect anything like that.
So I honestly believe that everybody has a share of blame to take. The police, indeed, like Robert said, they are extending their responsibilities to another body. But even us, the individuals, do you have to wait for the police to put you on the side and tell you, Mr.
Please.
Sir or Madam, your tires are not doing well? You know that you are the person who is driving this car. You've been with this car for a while. Why would you have to wait for the police to put you on the side to tell you, you know, your side mirrors are not okay, you know, your headlamps are not doing fine? So yes, everybody has a fair share of blame to take on this one. And if we don't work on it, I believe these accidents, the road carnages, are going to keep growing at such an exponential rate. And again, who is on the losing side? We, because we're the ones who will die. Honestly.
We are the ones actually ignoring the rules
Absolutely.
that govern traffic. Because Philomena, if you talk about, you know, the road signage, I want to also bring in the issue of people who are on the roads driving and did not take driver's courses, maybe, because these are things that are emphasized when you're being trained to be a driver. And we have had, you know, some kind of corruption in the past. Before the driving license was brought in, at that level, people are getting permits even without going through the whole training. And this is where you get to learn about most of this, you know, science. So I think that is also a major contribution when you look at individuals who are on the roads just by the mere fact that, you know, someone trained them at home and how they can be on the road, and they're misusing all these rules that govern you being a driver and a safe driver at that on the road.
Some people learn how to drive by association.
With the
actually.
coming in of these automated cars, previously manual cars, yes, people would go to driving schools, but these automated cars, where even a P7 chap can drive, you know.
Well, as you can see,
That is very obvious. Very few people now are going to driving schools.
There is a lot of disappointment
And all goes
this
back
morning.
to corruption.
Yes.
Even when you wake up and they tell you go to where you carry out tests, those that have gone through that process, still you'll find Chintu Chidogo is there. You know, there are people who just give you a phone call, go sign for your permit, and you have a permit. You know?
Well, I'll tell you, every single morning, every single afternoon, every evening when you get on Ugandan roads, there is always something that is off. You see it and you're in shock, you're in total shock. You're wondering, how can a mature Ugandan behave like this on the roads? But hey, I hope and pray that indeed one day we'll get to a state where everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing, especially on these our roads. Well, very many stories, like I did say, did happen yesterday, and of course that is both locally outside Uganda, onto the African continent, and even outside Africa. That is why we are here to make sure we give you some of the highlights of these stories, what happened locally and internationally.
And we'll kickstart it with Uganda People's Defense Forces that is set to retire army officers in a few months from now. The Uganda People's Defense Forces, UPDF, will retire senior army officers, including NRM Bush War heroes. The documentation process exercise for the retirees is ongoing at the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs headquarters in Imbuya. The Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs is carrying out documentation and sensitization exercise for retirement and discharge of UPDF officers under Branch 12 who are scheduled to retire this year. 34 generals are set to retire from the Uganda Defense People's Forces in July. According to the linked list in the media, 2 are at the rank of general, 3 are lieutenant generals, 10 are at the rank of major general, and 19 are brigadiers. However, defense spokesperson Brigadier Felix Kulaije, when contacted, claimed no knowledge of the list. Kulaije urged the media always to utilize his office for the right information. Military services are difficult, demanding, and dangerous, but returning to civilian life also poses challenges for the men and women who have served in the armed forces. Some veterans have a hard time readjusting to civilian life, while others make the transition with little or no difficulty. Major Jim Katende joined the NRM Busho in 1983 and retired in 2019. Shared his experience after serving for 36 years. Retired Major Katende also advised the officers who will soon transit into civilian life to maintain the discipline acquired over the years in service. He said during the retirement exercise, they were taken through various presentations aimed at helping them understand the retirement process and to their entitlements. Retired Major Katende said he learned how to cope with life after retirement from the armed forces. Section 28, Cap 307 of the Terms of Service specifies that at the age at which a UPDF officer can be retired from services, from the rank of lieutenant to captain, one can apply for early retirement at 40 years, while a major can leave service at 45 years. A lieutenant colonel can retire at 47 years and a colonel at 51 years.
In another story, Allied Health Professional Association Alliance has with immediate effect laid down their tools over salary disparities and alleged marginalization. Now, the move that has culminated into the laydown of tools by health practitioners was disclosed at the press conference by the association president, Patrick Dennis Alibi, in Kampala. The striking allied health professionals now want to meet the president as a condition to pull off their industrial action. All health workers in the category of allied health professionals have laid down their tools, and medical students on training have taken over wards to administer treatment on patients. A risky undertaking that may result into loss of lives if the situation is not given fast attention. The country-wide sit-down strike is a result of huge salary disparities that were harmonized. The president, Allied Health Professionals Association Alliance, Patrick Dennis, says it is now a presidential matter. The professionals have been asked not to be intimidated, since advocating for better pay is a constitutional right. The Vice President, Allied Health Professionals Association Alliance, Mbaha Emiri, highlighted the challenges that must be put into consideration by government. Health professionals allege they do the donkey work but are underpaid. Now, Allied Health Professionals Association comprises of 36 associations. These include physiotherapists, clinic officers, environmental health workers, dispensers, radiographers, among others.
And away from the health sector, we now look at Minister for Science, Technology and Innovations, Dr. Monica Mwanafunzi, who says she is facing intrigue, fights at the ministry, with a bunch of staff conniving with her political enemies to ensure she does not appear in the next cabinet reshuffle as a minister. Dr. Mwanafunzi broke silence following earlier allegations of corruption at the ministry, in which she framed to have misappropriated funds in billions of shillings appropriated for the making of Uganda COVID-19 vaccine. Dr. Monica Mwanafunzi was not known to many Ugandans until the outbreak of COVID-19 in 2020, when President Museveni appointed her as a presidential advisor on pandemics and chairperson of the COVID-19 National Task Force. When President Museveni was appointed for the 6th term in office, in his new government, he appointed Monica Mwanafunzi as Minister for Science, Technology and Innovations, a ministerial portfolio that brought her into the public limelight with prominency and power. In less than a year, Dr. Mwanafunzi was accused of embezzling funds meant to develop Uganda COVID-19 vaccine. The allegations have since trashed her in many public view. However, in an exclusive interview, Dr. Mwanafunzi claimed that she has never handled any public funds. Although the minister did not point out particular names, she said there are people in her office, in her ministry, and these are haters that are aiming at ensuring that she is dropped and never appears in the next cabinet reshuffle. The minister says she is heartbroken that people with evil motives have just damaged her well-known reputation of being a community worker, kind, and always fighting for humanity and better conditions of Ugandans.
Moving on, Monday last week, security cordoned off the former FDC leader, retired Colonel Kizza, who was footing to Kampala, protesting the high prices for essential goods and commodities. Besigye said Ugandans cannot afford buying them, and he's threatened not to give up with the processions and protests, which was anticipated to peak from last week's move. Now, yesterday, with developments happening, the road to his home was inaccessible as the police have packed in the way to block anyone from reaching his home. Security was beefed up at all over the place leading to his home, with security personnel and vehicles patrolling. Now, yesterday, a team of lawyers led by Kampala Lord Mayor Erias Lukwago and politicians finally met up with Kizza Besigye, but at first were denied entrance by security, and a moment was surfaced between security and the lawyers, resulting into a tug of war. Security led by OC Manyangwa dared not to allow these lawyers to meet Besigye as they inquired when to visit their clients. However, security made it mandatory visiting the lawyers to sign the visitor's book amidst controversies from the lawyers, who said the book wasn't from Kizza Besigye's home, but eventually they were allowed in. And after meeting Besigye, the team gave a narrative of Besigye's status, asserting that he wants security of his premises, among other fundamentals. Police spokesperson Fred Enanga has vowed not to let Besigye sabotage peace and business in the city centre, and advised him to seek formal permission for any developments.
Moving on to the international stories, U.S. officials have announced plans to ease tough sanctions imposed on Cuba by former President Donald Trump. Under the new measures approved by the Biden administration, restrictions on family remittances and travel to the island will be eased. The processing of U.S. visas for Cubans will also be speeded up. Now, State Department spokesman Ned Price said the move would allow Cuban citizens to pursue a life free from government oppression. The loosening of sanctions will see a cap on family remittances, funds sent by migrants to the U.S. to family members in Cuba removed as well. Now, previously, migrants were prevented from sending more than $1,000 every 3 months. Donations to non-family members will also be permitted under the new plans, but U.S. officials emphasize that they will seek to ensure such payments don't reach those who perpetrate human rights abuses by using civilian electronic payment processors. They also say that nobodies will be removed from the Cuba restricted list, a State Department register of companies linked to the communist government in Havana, with whom U.S. citizens are barred from doing business. A Biden administration official also came through to say that more charter and commercial flights will be made available to Havana. U.S. consular services on the island will be expanded, and family reunification programs will be relaunched. Now, still looking at the Ukraine-Russia war, hundreds of besieged Ukrainian soldiers evacuated. Ukraine has confirmed that hundreds of its fighters trapped for more than 2 months in Mariupol's Azovstal steelworks have been evacuated. Deputy Defense Minister Hanna Maliar said 53 badly wounded soldiers were taken to the town of Novosibirsk, held by Russian-backed rebels. She said another 211 were evacuated using a humanitarian corridor to Olenivka, another rebel-held town. Russia earlier said a deal had been reached to evacuate the injured troops. Now, about a dozen buses carrying Ukrainian fighters who were holed up beneath the besieged plant were seen leaving the huge industrial site in the southern port city on Monday evening, according to the Reuters news agency. Now, Russian state-run media outlets also posted footage of what they say were injured Ukrainian soldiers being evacuated from Azovstal. Ms. Maliar said the troops would be exchanged for captured Russian soldiers. And over to Kenya, where we're looking at the elections that are due any time now. Now, one of the frontrunners in Kenya's presidential election has picked a veteran female politician and one-time rival as his running mate. Raila Odinga named Martha Karua to the role on Monday, making her the first woman to run on a major political party's presidential ticket. Ms. Karua is a former justice minister from the Central Region, which is seen as a key battleground in the 9th August election. She ran for president herself back in 2013. I still haven't finished business with the presidency, so God willing, one day I will serve in that capacity, Ms. Karawa said last year. And she added that history is calling us to close the gender gap in our country. Mr. Odinga came through and announced Ms. Karawa's appointment as his deputy. She said she was deeply honored and thanked the faceless team of dreamers who had supported her. Now, some in the press have dubbed the veteran politician the Iron Lady. She, in the past, decrying Kenyan politics as a rich boys club and backing calls for the International Criminal Court to investigate the violence which broke out after previous elections. Now, her alliance with Mr. Odinga is something of an about turn. Back in 2007, while Justice Minister, she accused Mr. Odinga's opposition, Orange Democratic Movement, of ethnic cleansing after the nationwide clashes that followed that year's disputed election. Mr. Odinga called the accusations outrageous.
Good news, the U.S. wildfire danger seen spreading east as climate risks grow. From New Jersey to Georgia, U.S. states thousands of kilometers from wildfire hotspots in the West face a growing risk from forest blazes as global warming makes safe havens increasingly rare, researchers have warned. Wildfires pose at least a moderate risk to more than 30 million properties across the U.S., according to the modeling by First Street Foundation, a nonprofit that maps climate risks. Wildfire risk is increasing so much faster than even the flood risk is across the U.S., said Ed Kins, the group's chief data officer, on Monday. And it is likely to affect areas that aren't thought of as wildfire-prone areas right now, but will be soon. Well beyond hard-hit states such as California and New Mexico, East Coast areas, including South and North Carolina, are among those with the most properties threatened by fires, researchers found. It is used as a new model intended to give home and other property owners a detailed risk assessment of the climate-related threats facing their property, including wildfires and floods. The ability for an individual to sit down and type in their address and see what risks is makes a personal connection between climate change and this data set, as said by Eddie Kins, the researcher.
Well, I know that Robert definitely is at least not on strike, even after having all our medics trying to get on strike and have their issues, sorted. Robert over here, though, is just a preacher of the good
That's
news.
why you must boost your immune system, so that you reduce chances of you visiting health facilities. Much as we know government never fails you to handle the situation, but boost your immune system. When you do that, you're saving on the money you're spending, paying these doctors. Also, you're avoiding an inconvenience when your body is not at its right state. How do you do that? By simply taking Hallelujah Jingati or Hallelujah Turmeric. These products are at just 1,500. Hallelujah Turmeric drink and Hallelujah Jingati. They'll boost your immune system, and I guarantee you, you do whatever you're supposed to do without fear of visiting the hospital or even spending so much on that. So, well, you'll thank me later, that I'm sure.
Absolutely. We're heading into the inspirational song for this Tuesday morning. Of course, when we get back, we'll be getting into the topic of discussion in our segment, Good Morning Uganda Newsreel.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Need to send money to a loved one but you don't have enough on your phone? Get away with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial *165*5*3# to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Even with my grandson, a doctor at my side, I struggled to get the help I needed. But he saw something that day. He began to work day and night. He wouldn't quit, even when people said no. He wouldn't stop fighting. He knew something had to change, and his vision was bigger than anyone could imagine. He made it possible to receive quality medical services anywhere in Uganda by simply using a phone.
This is a story of a regular Ugandan just like you, who harnessed the power of technology to provide a solution for us. How about you tell us your story? UG needs more of you. To share your story, visit airtel.co.ug/UG needs more of you or call or SMS 162.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
We bring you a fresh,
well-researched program to help you identify opportunities for investment, job creation, growing your entrepreneurial skills, wealth creation, and social transformation.
We have a product that is ready for schools, supermarkets.
Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Every week we showcase opportunities for creating new products and services.
I now harvest a lot of cocoa. When I harvest it, I sell. After selling, I put money in my project. I have 2 projects. One is for construction of my house. 2 is for educating my children.
Excellence in innovation, the passion and drive to succeed, and the right mindset to grow your business. Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Brought to you by Operation Wealth Creation.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone and enjoy free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 Uganda shillings. That's free 2 GB for the first month and free 1 GB for the next 11 months at only 250,000 Uganda shillings with free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 shillings, making the effective price of the 4G phone 163,500 shillings only. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Seven minutes after the hour of 7 a.m. right here on Good Morning Uganda. Thank you for joining us for this very special segment that is the newsreel. My name is Philomena Mastiko once again, and I am in the company of Robert Kirabo Nyonyintono. And well, we're having a discussion about the World Museums Day, which is actually going to be happening tomorrow, the official day. But also I understand that here in Uganda, also UBC, we've been having a long week activities, Robert, and you are telling me back in your days how you used to go to the museum. I found that quite interesting. But what are we doing? How are we going to be celebrating this?
This time around, the Uganda Museum, you know, we have over, many people know of one museum.
Yes.
That is the one at Chitante. But we have about 30 plus museums, because museums differ. We have those that are various cultural institutions have.
Okay.
So all these have merged and they have staged at one place. That is the Uganda Museum. So for about a week there have been a number of activities. We have been going there, seeing what is in the Uganda Museum. We have religious museums.
Yes.
When you go to some of these sites where the martyrs were martyred, you find that they have a museum there.
Yes.
So a bit of this has been brought in one place for you to go and see and understand, because museums help us know our past, where we are, and better determine our future. Because most of the tools we have today, our great-great-fathers had them.
Yes.
Today you have a knife. At one time it was a stone, and sometimes has been just modification of what was there. So today UBC, joining this, we are going to have, that is, a vintage car show. It's one of the activities by the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities. They will come from Parliament, then they will be parked here. So you can come and look at these cars. Some were manufactured even before you were born. Old is gold. So it's going to be very interesting, and that is one thing you can't afford to miss. You know, you look at a car that was maybe manufactured in maybe in the 60s.
Well, I think that would really be very, very interesting. Come and check out all these beautiful vintage cars. They will be here at UBC. Come and, you know, check out. Take yourself back to the good old days. If you're not there, at least
the thought of your father drove us. Your grandfather had a Citroen. It was a car by then.
Yes.
Well, today you can have a look at a Kombi. Do you know Kombi?
No, I don't.
No, I don't. The old one, not these ones of.
Okay. All right. All right.
Chikere.
Anyway, getting to the discussion for this morning, of course, we are looking at the collapsing buildings in Kampala. Now, just to take you back, yesterday there was a building that was under construction that is in Kenyena town, and we had one person lose their life, and 2 others were left in such a sorry state. But also, when you look back at all the things that have been happening, all the buildings, this is not the first building. Last year, we had one that was really, really all over the place. We had a building that collapsed that was in Kisenyi, and we lost more than 5 people. And a number of other people were buried in the rubbles. You know, they kept retrieving them gradually. It was not a one-time activity. And again, that is not the only sad incident. There are very many other incidences that have happened, because clearly Kampala buildings are frequently collapsed in Uganda, or even in Kampala itself. But also there are very many people or many bodies that are party to this, Robert. Okay, we know that KCCA has something to do with this. We have the National Building Review Board, which of course eventually will also be getting into and seeing their roles and how what they have, the fair share of blame they have to take on this. But if we are starting off right now, why are we seeing these cases happening? You know, because we have very many people on the ground. We have engineers, site engineers. Okay, we have other people who overlook all these projects. Why are they still happening, even when we have all these responsible parties?
There are a number of factors, but I want to look at them in about 3 approaches. First, I'll begin with the building material.
Yes.
Today in Uganda, we have, under Uganda National Bureau of Standards, has tried, but I think they have limited staff. For them, I don't want to just rush into corruption. I must say they are limited staff, that is to begin with, because if you look at cement today, there's a lot of altered cement. Ugandans are so crafty to the extent that they end up killing themselves, because a bag of cement, 1 bag of cement, someone mixes, comes up with the same packages, yet there is half sand, half cement. Go to Good Shed. There is a place here around Clock Tower. It's called Good Shed. They deal in cement. But around 1 or 3, you see a lot of dust. These guys are getting cement, some of them, not all of them.
Yes.
And their police at CPS will tell you almost every month there's someone they are arresting. They find they get genuine bags of cement, they tear, they add sand and other materials, they repack, then they sell. Now that is altered cement. Go to the iron bars. My friend, Mitaimba, those ones. This length, but material. UNBS has tried to sensitize people. If you're buying them, this is what it should be, this width, this length. So building materials are a problem. We have so many fake products on market.
Yes.
So many altered products on market. Even when you go, you buy a hoe. Previously when we were growing up, today you go, you buy a panga to cut a tree trunk, but what happens? It falls.
Yes.
You would have a panga for a year, 2 years. Today you can't. A slasher. You're slashing your compound or something. You know, they're not the slashers we had. So there is so much that the materials that are being used today, someone under construction must really get them from a reliable source. Because of money, people now will attempt anything. Then away from the building materials, now we want to go to the people constructing these buildings. First, I want to begin with the owners, the business people.
Yes.
That they dodge all avenues of doing things right because you save a bit of money. Then second, they want to construct in a very short period of time, where concretes are not given enough time to condense and hold firm. So a man will tell you, I secured a loan, because most of these buildings, to be honest,
yes,
many Ugandans now are depending on loans. Most of these buildings are being constructed on loaned money. That is why during COVID-19, when traders were talking about rent and all this, these guys came up and told them, first discuss with the banks.
Yes.
Because you get
that's
a loan,
why we get the loans, and they
it has a
given
payoff
period.
period. So you want this building to be finished very quick, so that it's occupied early, so that you begin getting money to pay back the loan, to service the loan.
Yes.
So these men now cannot afford, where building standards require a building to be constructed maybe within 6 months.
Yes.
because the foundation is still weak. One floor is still weak, the concrete has not settled in, condensed properly, then you're adding on another to beat the time, to make sure you pay faster and better to meet the bank. So that is a problem. Now, away from the owners of the buildings, we go to the professionals. In Uganda, there are some jobs, and I want to say this, where everyone has become a professional, and ours being inclusive.
Yes.
Today, you find a doctor.
You don't know how they became doctors.
Let alone a doctor who has studied and has a doctorate. But I'm meaning these people who call themselves medical doctors.
Yes.
You know, doctor. I'm a herbalist. They have all funny names. I'm this, but doctor. So when you're moving along the way, you are doctor. What doctor? This man knows nothing. Journalists, munamawili. From drama, shouting, playing funny plays. Now even in the building sector, we have engineer. If you're constructing, so very few professional engineers, everyone is an engineer. My site engineer. This guy did architect, he's an architecture, he's an engineer taking over a building. Everyone is supervisor. So this profession also has not lined out who is who for you to employ.
Yes.
So this person knows what they are doing. They have fundi, site, what they have funny names, you know. And all of these signify levels of professionalism within the construction industry.
Yes.
However, what is happening, these are not qualified people. A young man comes from the village, one day he's learning how to put a brick on a brick. Next he's laying a foundation. The other day he's lifting structures. The other day he's now getting contracts of big projects. A P3 river, or even P2. Now he's moving around engineer. That is my engineer. So when I'm employing this person, I go to a professional. He will tell me for that structure, maybe I need 10 million.
Yes.
This young man will tell you, maybe to be Zimba at about 3 million. So these are the challenges you get. Building material.
Yes.
Experts, that we don't have the right professionals, or where the people are not using them. Then also, finally, are the regulating bodies.
Actually, before we get to the regulatory bodies, in fact, I love the fact that you talk about it, because we have very many, for example, and all the issues that you have talked about. I believe there is a certain body that is supposed to make sure that everything is it's checked on the list to make sure that the construction of all these buildings go on. So, of course, we are trying to eliminate, site structure failures. Now, a body like Kampala Capital City Authority, we know that the buildings around Kampala, before construction commences, the plans have to be submitted to KCCA and they can approve or not. But again, when you see that some of these buildings are really collapsing, we are losing lives, we are losing property, money is being lost, brings questions. Is KCCA actually doing its job?
It's two-way. First, Ugandans are very crafty.
Ugandans in KCCA, Ugandans in general.
In general, even before you go to KCCA.
Yes.
I want to tell you there are buildings that where you only find the builders or the site active at night from 11 till 2 in the morning. KCCA staff are asleep. This building may rise in some of these outskirts and they don't have information because there are also very few. The buildings are only constructed over the weekend. That is also another issue.
When the KCCA officials or any other regulatory body is not actually working.
Second, in Uganda, not all people are equal before the law. Yes, I want to repeat this. Not all people are equal before the law. We must accept this. Much as we would love to pin KCCA, though I'm going to get to them at that level. The people who are immune. You bring your enforcement, they will tell you whose site are you on. These are facts only the journalists we can speak. For them they may fear because they want to protect their sites. Their jobs, they will tell you, I will move and you must. You must. Some of these collapsed buildings, for us who do investigative journalism, stories behind. So KCCA has those challenges. People who dodge enforcement and they have mastered the art of doing that. Yet for them, they're understaffed. They can't be everywhere. I won't tell you if you go just in Kampala, how many buildings are constructed in the 5 divisions of Kampala. Right now you could have over maybe 2,000 sites. For heaven's sake, how do you expect the few staff that can monitor every site? So, away from those 2 factors, there is also corruption. That yes, there are some people who are immune. There is element of corruption. Then there are those crafty Ugandans who can dodge.
Yes.
Corruption has become a problem. Then also, there is a problem of people who don't stick to guidelines. I know a number of, when you look at plans of some of these buildings here, as approved by KCCA Planning Authority, a building has a parking lot that maybe the ground floor is going to be parking. When you go back, there are shops well constructed.
Yes.
But KCCA approved a plan that has parking.
So midway they changed the plans.
They changed.
The
You
plan
find
they
a
present
building is
is
supposed to be 2-storied. When you look at it, it ends in 5. But when the technical staff there did their job very well. Now I told you they are not staffed very well. And of course the rate at which buildings are mushrooming is also very high. So that combined, that people know I'll go to KCCA, get the plan, do all this. When I come, I'll do something else.
Yes.
But also the corruption element. Then we have those that divert away from the plan, as I've told you. But these authorities also have a weakness, that however few they are, monitoring and supervision is something they're not doing very well. And for me, I have a problem with KCCA enforcement. I don't know who's the director of enforcement. These guys have become more corrupt. If there is any department in KCCA that is corrupt that I can testify to, is the enforcement team. You find them at night moving on these streets, getting these poor women, selling meat, selling what, at night.
Yes.
They arrest someone, put him on that truck, then after a short distance, release that person. Then he comes back and says, that is how they go to sites. They go to sites, they confiscate wheelbarrows, confiscate all the builders. Who is the site engineer? Take them, after a short distance, release them.
Yes.
Engineer calls and says, so that enforcement that is has reached that level of corruption is a problem that has to be dealt with. Otherwise, most of these buildings, when they collapse, now, last time I saw the Chisenyi building, Dorothy Chisaka, executive director, making utterances that I felt, why are you still in office? She said, you see, this has been an illegal structure. It was here, we were told, not Ugandans have died in the middle of the city. So how did this building then reach 4 floors?
Without KCCA.
Without KCCA knowing. If you knew and told this person to stop construction, they'll tell you the law says first warn, then do that, then...
So is there a possibility that they turn a blind eye to all these things, even when they know they're happening?
One, when you listen to their explanation, I think also the law needs to be changed. KCCA to demolish an illegal structure is not as easy as said.
Yes.
The guidelines of the law are a bit complicated, because it has to first warn, then to give someone a number of days. I think that 26 or 29 days, almost a month. If this person does not adhere, then again they issue another. By the time of demolition, it is a long process. And somehow, somewhere, maybe someone can have that building in place.
Okay.
But for me, one of the body I want to hold accountable, KCCA has its weaknesses first. But there is this National Building Review Board. I think they are not doing us justice as Ugandans.
Yes.
Because when you look at the powers given to them, that is the National Building Review Board, a semi-autonomous government of Uganda body under the Ministry of Works and Transport, was established under Section 3 of the Building Act Control 2013 to monitor building developments in the country, among others. So this is a body, and our law is very clear that in case someone is found guilty of having such a structure that is illegal, and maybe such eventualities happen, he has to pay up to about 280 currency points, not exceeding that amount, or pay, that is about an equivalent of 5.7 million, all serve a jail sentence not exceeding 12 terms. So the law is in your favor that these people can be held culpable.
Yes.
How many have ever?
How many have actually gone behind the behind bars to pay for
Frank
this?
Baine, a prison spokesperson, tell us if the people you have there at Chitalia or Ruzira or anywhere, how many are serving at least maybe 7 terms for negligence that leads to loss of lives? You'll find never. So if you have institutions that are not working, let them come clean. What is the problem? Is it the materials? Then we go to the Uganda National Bureau of Standards. We hold them accountable.
Yes.
How are these materials accessing market? Why is your problem? Is it the professionals? Then the public has to know that this so-called engineer who is cheaper,
Yes.
but not a profession, may land you a jail sentence of 12 years. But I think that is something that even we only act when there is an incident that has happened.
Well, now we have established that every party has, a fair share of blame, starting from the owners of these buildings down to, the engineers, the professionals, down to the regulatory bodies, KCCA, and, the National Building Review Board, which, by the way, is mandate is to make sure that we can build a strong, we can have buildings that are of high standards, and, of course, to foster decent construction. But again, now that we've established all these, what can be done, especially from the bigger regulatory, from the regulatory body? Because I feel like if these people don't meet up to their responsibilities, people are going to keep doing what they want. I mean, if UNBS does not address the issues it has internally, let me tell you, everybody wants money, Robert, okay? Businessmen and women are very shrewd. They will have to come up with all ways to have all these fake products. So if UNBS does not address its issues, if KCCA does not address its issues, I mean, how are we going to do this? So what can they do to make sure that, we at least try to control, because every single time we are hearing buildings collapsing, and you see the worst comes to the worst when we lose lives. We have people buried under the rubble, and it's just really not okay. It can't be fine, because we have lives inclusive in all this.
First, I'll begin with communities and individuals. In Uganda, we have the I don't care mindset. Everyone seems to be on their own. They don't care. We have the Director of Public Prosecution established, that is the Building Control Crimes Division. This was launched, I remember, in June, about a year back. So this is now in place. So what happens? If you're looking at a site in your area, because most of these buildings, unfortunately, when they collapse, locals have a lot of information.
Absolutely.
They have a lot of information, meaning they have been knowing that something wrong is going to happen. They will tell you, yesterday I watched a very interesting clip. A man said, meaning
they see them, they notice them, so but they don't do anything about them.
They'll look at the speed. they'll know that this engineer here, instead of 3 bags, they are putting 1. They know all this. At the end of the day, it is your sons, your in-laws, your friends in that area that are working as casual laborers on this building. So report to the authorities. We have a whole division that is there to prosecute such people. Report to the authorities, suspicious buildings. Go to the local authorities and tell them, maybe at KCC, if you're in town, at division headquarters, and tell them there's a building there. When you hold authorities accountable,
yes,
when we whistle blow, it can cause a change. But now everyone doesn't care about it. 2, we should sensitize Ugandans that you want money, but you're going to lose. You've gotten this loan, you want your building to be up and finished, a 5-story building to be up and finished in 2 months. But in case it collapses, it's going to kill people. You're going to have these inconveniences. So employ professionals. Ensure that you give them the time they require to give you the work it needs. Because someone tells this person is looking for money. He may advise you that this is the right thing to do, but then get compromised because of the money.
Yes.
He needs. So people should have knowledge. Then these institutions, let them come out clean and tell us why is the problem. KCCA, why is the problem? If people are building at night when you're asleep because it's not official work, then let's have these people in this particular unit work till morning. If it is all about working on weekends, have them work on weekends, you know. Second, you need to do cleaning within you. Cleaning. This department needs thorough cleaning. We need not only professionals, but we need people of integrity.
Yes.
Because, yes, most of the times we look at papers, paperwork, but integrity, records. How was these people in this department over a time? What is their track record? Because this is what is killing us. And finally, this Philo, these bodies that bring professionals together, I think it is time we only not see them advocating for better pay, because that is where we've seen them.
Yes.
Better pay, holding government at ransom. You must pay us because we do a lot of work, no because. It is time they also advocate for cleaning in their profession.
Yes.
We have a body that brings together all professional engineers. Do Ugandans know where they can find these people? You know?
Yes.
That okay, if I want an engineer, this is where I go. They are professional engineers that are affordable. You know the problem with the professional bodies in Uganda, why they are made, is they want to ring fence, they want to fight others from joining so that they remain dominating and charging a lot of money. Yet people will find another way. So professional bodies should come and sensitize people and show them clearly benefits of using professionals. Because now in Uganda, any job, there's someone who is not a professional but can do it. However, there are high risks of employing people who are not professional in that particular area.
And that's why they are called professionals, because they have the skill set to do what they're supposed to do. Well, eliminating site structure failures should be the #1 priority to all the parties, to all the institutions, you know, that are supposed to be playing their roles. So that is #1 priority for you as an institution, for you as KCCA, for the engineers, you know. Make sure that what is being done is actually in sync with what is what has been presented to you to be approved. And basically you can do that through monitoring and evaluation. So if you don't do that, we are yet to actually see very many more buildings around Kampala collapse and losing lives, losing property, money going to waste just like that. Well, that's it for the news, for this newsreel segment this morning, and thank you for joining us on this one. But now we'll be taking you to the papers, Daily Monitor, the New Vision and Daily Nation, to see the stories that did make it to bed. And of course, when we get from there, we'll be going to the roads to see what is the situation looking like for this cold morning. And of course, we'll be getting into the climate arena to give you more news and the weather forecast for today. Jamie Agenda is also in the queue, and the sports updates from Ruben Mpima will be coming in slightly much later. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite shows.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone and enjoy free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 Uganda shillings. That's free 2 GB for the first month and free 1 GB for the next 11 months at only 250,000 Uganda shillings with free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 shillings, making the effective price of the 4G phone 163,500 shillings only. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Live from UBC Studios, Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, in the news review this morning, the papers, Daily Monitor, the big headline, Union loses billions in flawed contracts, and it's actually in a spot of bother after it reportedly failed to provide, among many others, some records to the PPDA audit team. Now, that story is there on page 4, and looking at house arrest, FDC supporters demand police vacate Besigye home. And the picture over there, we're looking at the Lord Mayor Aries Lukwago and fellow lawyers registering in a visitor's book, given to them by security operatives. Now, still in more news, police to film Omoro by election. Now, of course, this will be happening later on this month, and that is on the 26th of May. So yes, we are yet to see how this will turn out and how preparations are shaping up at Namugongo Shrines. We are in May, and 3rd June is somewhere in the corner. Preparations are already underway. Catch that story on page 3. And again, in more news, ADF terror suspect charged. Well, moving on to the second page of the Daily Monitor, and still taking you back to the archives, we are seeing then Democratic Party President Paul Kawanga Semogerere and DP supporter Mukasa Mbide, and of course lawyer Arias Lukwago after a court ruling back in 2004. Now, today in history, police main headquarters were opened, and still in history today, Norwegian explorer sails papyrus boats. Oh wow. Well, still in more news, government to capture DNAs on national IDs. This would be an ideally great improvement. And Kagame prepares party for 2024 polls.
Well, we move on to the New Vision, which is also leading off with a story about Chiemba being detained by the U.S. at the Guantanamo Bay. Now, that is former Al-Qaeda suspect who is charged over ADF links. There is more to that story. That is on page 8 of the New Vision. But also in the New Vision, they give you a picture right there. Over 1,000 retire from the UPDF. Now, the retiring Army generals, also other officers that are expected to retire. There is more to that story on page 4 and 5 of the New Vision for this morning. A look inside Namugongo slums. They give you detailed view. That is on page 6 and 7 of the New Vision. But also Raila Odinga Ruto picking running mates, giving you insights of what is happening in Kenya as well. But also in culture, government sets date for Mumbere return. That is on page 28 of the New Vision for this morning. In education, Registration of new universities suspended. Which universities are we talking about? You can get more on that story. That is on page 3 of the New Vision. Now turning over to the next page, they show you Salim Saleh impersonator cons youth of money. Well, looks like he's also getting, they have caught up with him. But today in history, 17th of May 1998, Bagaya storms Toro Palace. Well, there is more to that you can get in today's New Vision. But also 17th of May 1993, Zaire protesters hack the OAU chief. Wow, that is really back in history, but you can get more on that. But also the New Vision gives you government plans to develop leather and textile industries. That is right there in the New Vision. Government to stop creation of new universities. Of course, more on that on page 3 of the New Vision.
Daily Monitor sports Stella Chesang ticks Cape boxers. Now, of course, after a 3-year maternity break, the 25-year-old distance runner, well, she returns very strong. And in more news, Vipers both surprised by easy triumph and taking it to the Singleton Challenge, golf's ultimate pairing. And Adria and Charles Kagombe, of course, are not just winning on the green, but their celebrations are also up there. Well, still taking you to football, Liverpool assess Salah Kanjik for Saints clash. And when you move on to the second page of the sports, we still looked at Breads to assess Salah and Banjik for Saints. Now the story is over there in full detail, and also bringing you Victoria University loss emphasizes Falcons' trouble. This is, of course, in the National Basketball League. Grab yourself a Daily Monitor this morning to catch up on all these stories.
And in the New Vision Sports for this morning, they give you a big picture right there of East African Netball Club champions and who won the crown at the expense of KCCA Netball Club, whom they beat. They beat in Saturday's final at Kamwacha. Well, right there, it's a good picture as they celebrate their championship, of course, with the cup as well. Unbelievable, the East African Netball Club championship team of the tournament had no player for the championship at the NIC. Well, but it got them into the championship. We're fired up. That is the siblings Frank Tayebwa and Winnie Birunji, who will attend a fully paid summer training camp in France after winning the first edition of the Uganda National Tennis Championship. More wins for Uganda, and that is also coming in really well as they get that championship to be in France. But more in the New Vision Sport for this morning. Grab opportunities. They're giving you opportunities at the National Council of Sports right there, and you can get more details. Victoria Pearls edges out of Nepal in the first T20 game. What is at stake? How far they did perform? You can get all that inside the New Vision Sport for this morning.
And into the Daily Nation, decision 2022, 84 days to go, and well, things are becoming hot and hotter. Well, strength of a woman, of course, that is the return of the Iron Lady with the nomination by Raila Odinga yesterday to be his running mate. Martha Wangari Karua is back in action. Catch up on that story. And still Me Too, Kalonzo's last minute entry to presidential race. Well, at this point, we're having very many presidential candidates. We are yet to see where that goes. And Mohamud re-elected as Somalia president, the story over there. And again, sweet victory for man who sued to get back bride price. Well, clearly things worked out in his favor. And focus on Baringo, that is in the county news. So yes, the Daily Nation is really full of action this morning. Reason for you to grab yourself a copy and catch up on all these stories. But also taking you to the roads this morning, the traffic. I'm focusing on areas of Makindye Division, areas of Muyenga, areas of Bunga, Bukasa, Namuongo as you're trying to get to the city center. We're also looking at Kabalagala this morning. It's quite a very busy town. The traffic is very heavy there over different spots. And again, Looking at Senyonjo Close, it's also very busy, but not forgetting Mbogo Road. Mbogo Road has very intense traffic. If you're coming in from areas of Mbogo, surrounding Mbogo Road, or you use Mbogo Road every single morning to access Kampala city center, well, this morning, I have to say, you may have to look at Plan B, an alternative, which would be ideal. But if you don't, again, you'll have to exercise quite a measurable amount of patience, because the traffic is actually very intense on this specific road. And getting onto Barnabas Road as you're trying to join Bukasa Road, well, the traffic buildup is there on several spots on this exact road, so you need to be very cautious and also very careful, because eventually it may, you know, derive into having a very heavy traffic on this specific road. Bukasa Close, on the other hand, is actually very free for you to navigate through wherever you are going, whether you're trying to access Bukasa Road or you're trying to get back to Chironde Road. It should be a very free road for you to use. Bukasa Road is also very free this morning, and there is nothing for you to really worry about. If you're using it to access the city center or you're using it to access Namungo Road, it should be an ideal route for you this morning. Well, when it comes to Namungo Road, well, it has some heavily traffic areas, especially when you're connecting to the industrial area, you know, the 5th Street, the 4th Street, all that. So you need to be very careful, and also start thinking of Plan B if you can actually get one. However, when you get to the 5th Street, the traffic starts to slow down a bit, although there are certain traffic buildups in several spots. That shouldn't be a very big problem for you. Now, of course, after navigating through all these and getting to the main road, which is the Jinja Kampala Highway, yes, it's a very busy road, and it's not any different this morning, while we are having all these spots that are heavy with some traffic. So yes, if you're coming in from areas of Bukoto and Zambia, I could say that this morning the roads are quite busy, most of them, with some areas having traffic buildups and other areas being very heavy with traffic. So yes, you need to plan accordingly. And again, just another road tip for you. I'm just going to echo what we talked about. Please and please respect all these road signs. And again, don't use roads you're not supposed to be using. If it's a one-way road, please let it be a one-way road. If it's a road that can only entertain one lane of cars, do not create a second lane or a third lane, because the traffic delays and all these other inconveniences could actually be coming in from you. Don't be the reason why people are very disgruntled this morning. And again, do not be a very funny person on the road. Everybody has somewhere to be, so respect their time and also be respectful to all the road signs. They are there for a reason, and you should also be one of the people that can actually encourage others to do what is supposed to be done the right way on our roads. Well, that's it from the traffic updates this morning. I am Philomena Mastiko. I now hand you over to Mollen, who is going to give you more when it comes to the climate and also the weather forecast.
Well, thank you very much, Philomena. Now, when we talk about climate, we have seen that there is one very stubborn gas that is now leading the world into a threat of global warming, increasing and increasing more. We're talking about carbon dioxide. Well, it is a greenhouse gas, and one that is known to trap a lot of heat in the atmosphere. Now, records that are coming through are not good at all. We did get this report from NOAA, and of course, with analysis coming in from NASA as well, we have broken record. And for the second time ever in history, we're seeing numbers of carbon dioxide go as high as above 422 million parts per million. And that can only mean that we are at a level where it's going to be hard to take those numbers down. Let me tell you, the first time we had this record, that is 4 million years ago, according to records coming from NASA and NOAA. And that was even before humans were existing on this planet Earth. And then we can assume that there was nothing much going on. And even then, carbon dioxide was just, coming in from the fact that there were no living beings. But now, because of our contribution, we have seen numbers rise for the second time up to such a level. And this is what is worrying scientists right now. This report did come out yesterday, and from the recent daily averages that are recorded in Mauna Loa, which is a specific designated center to keep track of carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere. And take a look at those numbers that are being shown on the screen. That is for May 14th, looking at 422.04 parts per million. That is the level that we are at. But also what has what is striking about these records is that since May 10th, we're seeing numbers in 421.13 parts per million. That means that the numbers are only rising, and May is just catching the eye, because at least by 14th, when we had that record, it means that we're surpassing what was there 4 million years ago. And let me tell you what is at stake when we have these numbers. It means that that is a level that can trap a huge amount of heat in the atmosphere, and at that level you can stop worrying about the normal floods that we have, or the normal heat waves that we are considering to be normal, because we could be looking at more of the worst situations being fueled up across the world. Because while this could be recorded at Mauna Loa, it means that that is the number of carbon dioxide levels that we have in the atmosphere. Now this is a global challenge, because we all share the same atmosphere, and we will of course equally share the effects of that, and that is where we stand. But also this comes in as we are preparing for COP27. Make sure that while the global leaders are converging to talk about another commitment towards lowering these temperatures or tackling the issue of climate change, we now have new threats with carbon dioxide levels now breaking levels that were there, records that were there 4 million years ago. It just goes to show you how human contribution towards climate change is also looking like. Now, talking about effects of climate change, we have had more of extreme weather events across the Philippines, and this area has suffered a lot, especially with the hitting of typhoons. Almost every year they're recording levels and levels of typhoons across the world. And now what is coming through is that they are likely to be having more for this year, because we're seeing more of the monsoon winds actually start to hit the area. So meaning that even when it is monsoon season, we do expect more of the rains to come through. Now in Philippines, a landmark finding moves fossil fuels companies, that is a climate liability, into the realm of human rights. What they are demanding now is that they are being hit by all these climate extremes, and it's nothing regards to what the human rights could consider. And so now they're demanding for government to intervene and say that they get them into a level where even when they're hit with these climate extremes, they are compensated as people who have been deprived of their rights to live. And this is where they are also coming in to say that out of the the typhoons that have hit them, that one that is highlighted is Typhoon Haiwan, which hit them in 2013, that made a direct hit on the hometown of Sano and Yebisano. Now, according to the negotiations that they have with the United Nations Climate Conference that was in Poland, they did ask for at least an act into the human rights of Philippines to make sure that even as global leaders do converge, they consider the fact that they are hit most, something that should be aligned with human rights, for them to get fair justice when it comes to being in the face of extreme weather events. Now, I think it is fair, because we do know that Philippines is, they're also very vulnerable when it comes to getting effects of climate change, and they contribute just a little towards what is happening across the world, like any other vulnerable developing region, which is why they're asking for most of the developed countries to come through. Even as we hold most of these conferences regarding climate change negotiations, there should be a consideration of human rights for the people that are being hit most by these extreme weather events that are linked to climate change, because obviously their contribution to the problem is less, but they are the ones getting much more of the effect. And that is where they are now standing. They are looking forward that maybe COP27 will have better commitments towards addressing this issue. But also in more news, we did talk about the sandstorm that has hit Iraq in the last couple of days. Now this started just a week ago when we saw a sandstorm cover the whole town. But for now, we are looking at more of this crossing over even into this week. Now, also the reports that did come out yesterday from Baghdad indicate that a heavy storm is now going closer to more of the area of Baghdad. Obviously, they have also had schools closed and also offices, and now it is affecting the international airport, that is the Baghdad International Airport, which was closed down yesterday due to the extreme of the sandstorm. Now, authorities in Baghdad, including the Education Ministry, declared a day off for local government institutions, and with the exception of health services, of course, because now you look at the health, you know, that it poses a challenge to health, so meaning that a lot of people that will be having respiratory diseases will have to check into the hospital. So that is why the health services have remained an exception in the city. However, hundreds of people across the capital and southern cities have also, you know, evacuated the area to at least find safer places outside of Baghdad for them to rest up until the airspace seems to be quite clear. But also what is coming up in as a highlight is the fact that the airport has been closed due to this sandstorm, and they do expect that maybe in the next couple of days, if that were to clear, then business can resume. But at least 1 week, this kind of 1 week sandstorm will be a challenge in terms of health among the people that are in Baghdad, because you look into the fact that this is directly impacting them, and extremes of sandstorms do not go away just in minutes, because the more the wind comes through, the more the air is going to be, you know, polluted, and this could obviously affect their livelihood when it comes to health issues. But also what we have had recently is more good news that are coming through. People are finding solutions. While we talk about the problem of climate change, it seems like solutions are also coming through. And this morning we did tap into a story of a Nigerian entrepreneur who is creating his own electric cars as a solution to move away from non-renewable energy. He says enough is enough, and now we have to go into, you know, the way of saving our planet. The future is green is what he is terming his electric cars, and he also goes ahead to build up stations where this can actually be done. Now, at first, the whole idea that he brought up was converting diesel into kind of electric performance of a car. Now, this entrepreneur found it brave that even with the conversion being also contributing to the fact that it could pollute, he has to go now really green, and he's doing it for the buses. Now, according to him, his workshop is now taking a step further to build solar battery powered buses. So it's not enough that the electric cars will be there, but how about you build a bigger solar plant that can actually be fueling the cars across you know, Nigeria. This is a 30-year-old university dropout that we're talking about, who has now made himself a name and become a big entrepreneur in Nigerian city. He is called Maduguri, and he has done a lot when it comes to environmental conservation and has been at the forefront of making sure that Nigerian cars are turned into more of those that are relying on renewable energy. In his ambitious project, he's building buses from scratch and has now acquired equipment with solar panels and batteries to make sure this can take him towards another level of developing most of these you know, technologies that are coming across. Well, in Nigeria, like most of Africa, the electric cars are have not yet gained a lot, but at least we're moving towards that. And I know that even here in Uganda, Kirabo has come up to, you know, promote electric cars. We already have buses, electric buses running on the roads that Kirabo did bring. We do have some at the airport, but also the fact that this has been something that Africa is picking up. We cannot sit and wait for developed countries to continue building solutions when ourselves we have innovators that have gone ahead to make sure that we get there. And I think this is a very good move that Africans are taking. And for me, as a climate change you know, activist, or someone who really looks into seeing the world do a lot of action in terms of climate, this is good news. But well, the good news also coming through this morning as we tap into a satellite. We look at the weather that is happening across the country, and it looks like we have mostly a sunny morning across most areas. Now, for northern Uganda, where you see open grey skies there, that is indicative of a sunny morning. Also crossing over to the Karamoja region, eastern Uganda, we do have sunny skies across the Cuba region as well. We're looking at mostly cloudy weather starting to build up across Mbale. That is extending all the way up to areas of Kamuli. Just a cloudy morning for now, but we do expect most of those areas to have a little bit of rains as the morning progresses. Also across midwestern Uganda, where you see some blue skies right there, that is for Masindi, Hoima, as well as areas of Fort Porto as well. We're looking at cloudy weather building up, but this is where we do have a rain system, and this did start off earlier in the morning, bringing up a few rains across parts of West Nile, but now that is extending towards Masindi and Hoima, and we could be looking at more a rainy morning over there even as the morning progresses. Now right now for the central parts of Uganda, where we do have Kampala as well, Entebbe, Wakiso, we're dealing with mostly cloudy weather with sun coming through, but we do have rains that could be coming your way later in the evening. But for now, it looks like it's going to be mostly sunny intervals for the morning. We'll go ahead and take a look into your forecast that is coming in from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority, and take a look at the weather that we are expecting for this morning. Looks like we could be dealing with still temperatures going up a bit, especially for the northern sector, but the rest of the country might still be having the lower 20s. We start off with the western side of Lake Victoria, where we do have Masaka, Kalisizo, Zimbabwe and Rakai. We're forecasting isolated showers that is starting off at 25 degrees centigrade. We take a look at Mount Elgon Highlands, where we do have Mbale, Bududa, Buko, Sironko. We're forecasting sunny intervals, starting off with a warm morning at 27. Looking at the western side, the eastern side of Lake Victoria, Tororo, Busia, Iganga and Jinja, we're forecasting sunny intervals, and also temperatures are likely to start off warm at 27 degrees centigrade. And across eastern Uganda, Soroti, Kata, Kuyemuri, Akumi, we're already having a sunny morning over there, but we're likely to also have those intervals of cloudy conditions, starting off with a hot 28 degrees centigrade. Now that area will continue with sunny intervals even later in the afternoon, and temperatures will be going up to the lower 30s. Now looking at the eastern side of central, Luwero, Woblenzi, Bururi, Nakaseke, we're forecasting isolated showers, and those will be starting off with a warm 27 degrees centigrade. Most likely that system will also continue into the afternoon. Central northern Uganda, Kitgum, Padel, Gulu and Ajumani, we're forecasting sunny intervals, and temperatures are likely to go up to 28. We do expect more sun in the afternoon, where temperatures are also expected to go up to the lower 30s as the day progresses. Now across the central parts of Lake Victoria, Kampala, Entebbe, Wakiso and Mukono, we're forecasting sunny intervals for this morning, and also starting off with a pleasant 26 degrees centigrade. We do expect some rains, though that is later in the evening, but for this morning it looks like we're going to be dealing with mostly intervals of sunny and cloudy weather, and temperatures also at a minimal pleasant kind of situation. So it's not so cold, not so hot, but we'll be dealing with that, not forgetting that we could also be looking at more rains coming through, as our rainy season is still on up to the end of May. Well, I'll leave you at that. We do have Good Morning Uganda agenda coming up, and also later on we'll be having sports highlights. My name is Mollen, Kenyena, wishing you a wonderful morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by...
Need to send money to a loved one but you don't have enough on your phone? Get away with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial *165*5*3# to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Ginger Tea drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
We bring you a fresh, well-researched program to help you identify opportunities for investment, job creation, growing your entrepreneurial skills, wealth creation, and social transformation.
We have a product that is ready for schools, supermarkets.
Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Every week we showcase opportunities for creating new products and services.
I now harvest a lot of cocoa. When I harvest it, I sell. After selling, I put money in my project. I have two projects. One is for construction of my house. Two is for educating my children.
Excellence in innovation, the passion and drive to succeed, and the right mindset to grow your business. Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Brought to you by Operation Wealth Creation.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
At exactly 6 minutes past 8 a.m. Thank you so much for keeping it with us here on UBC TV, and welcome to Good Morning Uganda Agenda. Once again, I'm Robert Kirabo Nyonyintono. It is a fair morning, but of course, Mollen has given you all that you need to know about the weather today. So make sure you suit according to what the forecast has been. If it is to rain, well, don't forget that jacket, that cardigan. And also just reminding you today, UBC, we are part of the World Museum's Day celebrations. And just a few minutes from now, hours, our compound, we shall have all those cars that maybe you just hear of parked in our gardens. So feel free to be part of this and enjoy these wonderful vehicles that you hear of, Citroens, Nissan, Combis, all those. We are joining the Ministry of Wildlife, Tourism and Antiquities to celebrate. That is the day that is celebrated every year on the 18th of this very month. Now, today in the agenda, we are going to be discussing agriculture, more so the role of cooperatives, and we are discussing the oldest cash crop in Uganda, I must say, where we know that a number of households, about 5,000 households, are engaged in growing this crop, and that is coffee. Every year, looking at our statistics, we now at least produce about 6 million bags, slightly above that. And when we look at our records, that is from the period of January either to Feb, you'll find that we are able to export 6.7 million bags of coffee. Now you look at what we produce and what we export. One would wonder, do we export everything? Yes. Our domestic consumption is about 1% of the coffee that we produce. So majority of that we export, and was able to earn the country $741 million US. So that is how important this cash crop we are going to be discussing this morning is. But we want to look at the role of cooperatives in the coffee value chain. And joining me on set is the man I've named cooperatives. That is Ivan Asimwe, the General Secretary, Uganda Cooperative Alliance. Every time you see him, you know there are issues of cooperatives. Ivan, good morning.
Good morning, Robert, and good morning, our viewers. Happy to be here once again. And like you have mentioned, it's not only you. Many people call me cooperatives. And it's not by mistake, because I've been in cooperatives for the last 19 years. That's a long way, really. So I think I qualify to have that name. 19 years without working outside the cooperative movement, having started as the smallest person in the cooperative, a cashier of a SACCO. And I've gone through the entire process up to the General Secretary of Uganda Cooperative Alliance. And I'm happy to be here. And I want to thank you for always giving us this opportunity as cooperatives to come and share with the public the role of cooperatives. And today we are looking at the role of cooperatives in the coffee value chain.
Maybe to give shape to this discussion, Ivan, when you talk about cooperatives, recently I had a discussion with my friend and I was telling them SACCOs are cooperatives. And many Ugandans still have in mind the other cooperative movement where farmers would have these cooperatives, get their produce, hand them over, given sheets, then come back and pay. So briefly define for us cooperatives to give better understanding and shape to this discussion.
Thank you so much. Before I define, a SACCO is a cooperative. A SACCO is a savings and credit cooperative organization. The word SACCO is just an abbreviation of the Savings and Credit Cooperative Organization. A cooperative is an autonomous association of persons united voluntarily to meet their social, economic, cultural needs and aspirations through a jointly owned and democratically controlled enterprise. It is member owned, it is member used, member benefiting. So it is owned by a member, used by a member, controlled by a member, and benefiting the member. That's where we usually go wrong. Most people do not understand cooperatives. They think cooperatives are companies. A cooperative is not a company. A cooperative is a cooperative, and by definition, like I've mentioned, it has to be owned, it has to be controlled, it has to be used, and it benefits the members. That's a cooperative. Now, back to your question. Cooperatives globally started on the 14th of March, 1761 in Scotland, where the weavers were doing their work, but they realized that you cannot really achieve a lot if you are working individually. You must work as a team. And then 1844 in Rochdale, also the same people doing almost similar work, they realized that they needed to work together as a team. And they formed the first modern cooperative society during that time. The other one of 1761 was not modern like this one. Then in Uganda here, 1913, our farmers, because of too much exploitation, realized that they needed to work together through a cooperative. You know,
as early as 1913.
1913, we are 100 plus old in this country.
Whoa.
And why did we start? It was because of too much exploitation of the farmers by the middlemen of Asian origin. You can imagine you're a farmer, you bring your coffee to a trader, and the trader says, you know what they would do? They would say, put your coffee there. So you would be a slave of the middleman. So he says, put your coffee there. Now, in the process of measuring, he says, angalia hapa. So as you are looking up, he would put a knee below the sack of coffee, and you lose a lot of kilograms. If the bagger was weighing 60 kilos, he would tell you it is 40. If you want to argue, then they would chase you. So the farmers said, no, for how long are we going to suffer? We must come together through cooperatives. That was the reason. 4 farmers, and they formed the first cooperative society called Chinakuria in the old Mubende district. Currently it is Chiboga district. And in 1920, 5 groups in Uganda sat and formed Uganda growers that later gave birth to Wamara, East Mengo, and West Mengo. And mainly the first cooperatives were cash crop based. That is coffee and cotton, mainly coffee and cotton.
Okay, with that rich background that you have given us, very interesting indeed for us to know that, yes, as early as that, we had cooperatives in Uganda. Now, I want to look at the role of cooperatives in the coffee value chain. First, Ivan, I must say I'm very disappointed that even coffee being here for such a long period, you find that majority of our coffee is exported. And what hurts is even what we consume is imported. So coffee is grown in Uganda. After it is grown in Uganda, it is exported in raw form to those countries. Then we go and import, I want to mention some common brand, back to Uganda, and we consume that. You know, it beats my understanding. We export cheaply, we import very expensively the little that we consume here. So after this period, cooperative movements have been here. We've had this crop for such a long period, but we still have this.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kirabo. And like you have mentioned, it is rather unfortunate that up to this time, 2022, we are still importing coffee as a final product. And yet, we are exporting a raw material. It is so unfortunate. You grow your coffee here, export it to Switzerland, they make Nescafe for you, and it comes here. And if you can compare now the pricing, look at how much is paid to a farmer, and how much I am paying to buy Nescafe. Then we have a problem. I have always told the Ugandans and Africans, Uganda is the pearl of Africa. Africa is a continent gifted by nature, but unfortunately with the poor people. Now, I really don't know what God is thinking about Africa. You really gave Africa everything. The good soils, very fertile soils. The climate, even if you slept outside, even if anything happened, you see, you have everything, but why are we poor? Now, if you were God really, Kirabo, what would you do to Africans? Having given them all this wealth, but they are poor and they are begging. We are supposed to be donors, but we are beggars. It is so unfortunate. Why? Because we have continuously passed on our opportunities. You know the word poor, to the viewers, the word poor means passing on opportunities repeatedly. You have the opportunities, but you are passing them on to other people.
Passing on opportunities repeatedly.
Oh. You have the opportunities, but you are passing them on to other people to become rich, and you remain poor, and you continue blaming God who created you. It's so unfortunate.
Unfortunately, we
you
are
have
also
the coffee, like
very
you have
religious as well.
For the last 12 months, between February 2021 and January 2022, we produced over 6 million bags of coffee and exported worse. We exported 6.7 million bags of coffee. Each bag is 60 kilograms, worth 741 million US dollars. That is a lot of money. And if you can imagine, over 500,000 households in this country are into coffee production. You can imagine. Now, but the challenge, you know what? We collect our coffee, export it as a raw material. And then we wait for the Muzungu to process for us Nescafe and other products. Then we import it very expensively. So they make more money as we continue to be poor.
So we are still supplying their companies, their factories, like it was in colonial time.
So I am telling you, we are poor because we are poor. And the poverty is the mind. God gave us everything. And this is what the cooperatives we are coming in to solve. Because the cooperatives say, let's work together. We are tired with exploitation. We must be masters. Let's stop this business of being slaves of other people. You grow coffee here. I am a coffee farmer. Do you know how much I'm paid? 5,000 a kilo of coffee. But if you are to look at Nescafe, go to a supermarket, look at a small tin of Nescafe, is a lot of money.
18,000.
Yes,
20.
if you are to look at a kilogram, is 100,000 plus in Uganda shillings. But remember, that kilogram they paid me 5,000. So what is it that I cannot process it here? What is the problem?
You lack ability.
Now, is it that Ugandans are not educated?
No,
is it that we don't have money? What is lacking? The problem is the mind, and this is what we need to work on critically if we are to develop.
When you talk about the mind, for crops like vanilla, I would say that maybe they have not been here for a long time. But when you are discussing a crop like coffee, what has taken us since 1913 till date, what has kept us blind? What has kept us, of course, we've had a number of attempts, I must say. There are a few groups of people that are trying to add value to coffee. I've heard, is it called hard coffee? I've come across a few on the market. There's a cooperative, it's Chibinge something in coffee. But still, those are very, very few. So what has kept us in this darkness all along? Knowing that coffee is one of the products where cooperatives actually have been there for a long time, trying to work together, like you said, on this better it and benefit better.
Thank you so much. What has kept us so long like this? I can tell you, my brother, by 1960s, cooperatives in this country were very strong. Can you believe they had 14 ginneries and 7 coffee churning works in 1960s? So had we moved at that pace, where would this country be? They were controlling over 90% of our coffee. So the coffee was going through the cooperatives. And that one stopped exploitation. We had cooperative, the primary cooperatives forming secondary and tertiary cooperatives. These are called unions. And then there was a coffee marketing board that was in charge of exporting the coffee. In 1964, cooperatives were very stronger that they started the Cooperative Bank Limited, which was closed on the 19th of May, 1999. They were very strong that in 1961, they formed the Uganda Cooperative Alliance as the apex body, which I work for. They were very strong that they controlled over 325,311,500 Uganda shillings. That was a lot of money, almost 80% of the Ugandan budget.
Wow.
So, had we moved at that pace, this country would be ahead of Korea. I had an interface with the Korean, the professor in charge of the Korean development strategy. And he told me they were here to learn cooperatives in the 1960s. So they went back and did it better. If you can imagine, now the apex body for the agricultural cooperatives in Korea, which is called the National Agricultural Cooperative Federation, by 2021, by 2011, their net worth was $305 billion US, which was almost 40 times bigger than Ugandan economy.
Well, apart from the insecurities that we had over time, for Uganda's case, there was a lot of mismanagement of these cooperatives. Their assets, some of them seized to make profits. I was discussing with an old friend of mine, I think he's in the 70s, and told me one time they went for their annual general meeting. And after eating and all this now, the cooperative head comes and tells them, we made no losses, we made no profits.
So what was it?
But however, we have something that each member that has come would go home with. Have a blessed evening. You know, during the morning hours, they are keeping them busy, this, that. Now accountability and the and the financial statement, the chairperson comes and reads such. They are given attendance. Some man, of course, they get excited a few at the end of the day. So there was a lot of mismanagement, which Korea, you may not have done that. So when you look at these assets, you hear that people who are taking them over, now this was a cooperative lorry, it was doing other work. So until we saw the collapse of cooperatives, they were very vital in coffee, like we said, but they failed to prove a point. Now when you talk about them today as a solution, do you think we learned from our mistakes so that you know what really led to this? Then, are they still workable in modern day era?
Thank you so much. You know, when you say that cooperatives had challenges, this is true. And most of these challenges were external. Talk about the political wars in this country. And it is the biggest issue that affected the cooperatives. If you went to these cooperatives, I want to thank government that has come in. They have compensated some of the unions that lost their assets. They lost a lot of assets. You see, they were very strong, that they owned a lot of factories, they owned structures, they owned vehicles, a lot of things.
Just have visited Bugisu till date, and you're like,
go to Bugisu and see. Look at their factory.
Yes.
Look at the factory. What was the facility was acquired in the 60s around there.
Have a lot of property.
Yes, a lot of property. But during the wars, these properties either they were rooted or they were bombed. So that is number one that affected them. Number two, economic restructuring, those policies. Whereby now you come up with liberalization after the cooperatives have been subjected to all of that. Then before you allow them to stabilize, you now adopt economic policies that now put the last nail in the coffin. Then of course, like you are saying, now in the process, of course we have wrong people. Mismanagement of the assets, the routing, the corruption, you know, all of that. So because of all of that, cooperatives were greatly affected. However, I'm grateful that currently, one, there is stability and the cooperatives can easily operate. Two, we have a president and a government that is supportive of the cooperative movement. You have always heard our president, whenever he goes anywhere, he mobilizes people and he sensitizes them to either join or form cooperatives. That is a tick on our side. And as the cooperatives, we need to build on this to have very strong cooperatives. However, my only challenge I've seen is that most of the politicians do not understand the cooperative model. You know, the cooperative model is not that you tell people to go and form a circle and you give them money. That's not a cooperative. I want to make it very clear. When you tell people, me, Ivan, and Kirabo, that you go and form a circle and we give you money, that's not a cooperative. That is something different. I don't know why they call it a cooperative. Because, like I defined, a cooperative has to organically grow. For us to have a strong cooperative, me and Kirabo must sit down, understand our problem. What is our problem? Maybe we want to form a circle. Our problem is that we have some money, but we don't have access to savings. We cannot save this money. We keep it under our beds and the money is stored. Then we cannot access affordable financing. Now, based on those problems, we say, now what do? Let us form our group so that we start saving and then accessing credit. Now, if there is any external support, it comes to boost your efforts. But if you just form because you want money from a certain source, then that's not a cooperative.
That's when you end up thanking government that this money was made to thank us for voting in the right direction. So because people were excited.
So because of those problems,
just appreciating them.
Because of those problems, cooperatives really got into many challenges. But currently, as I speak, cooperatives are strong. You know, we have over 31,000 registered cooperative societies in the country, and over 90% are agricultural based. And the majority of these are into coffee value chain.
Let's understand. Now, what is the role of these cooperatives? We've defined what they are. We've looked at the challenges they had, the problems they had, why we should have them. But for coffee specifically, I don't want to open up Pandora's box of what is going on in Parliament. Today now report may be scheduled, but I don't want to go there. Please don't go there. But I wonder, you know, previously they will tell you a farmer would harvest their coffee, then bring bags and bags to the cooperative, then is given a sheet of paper, then later come and get money. Maybe he wants to take children home. Instead of selling raw coffee, they come, they look at the garden, they give him money because they know they're the sole marketers of this. Still they have to bring it. Now in modern day today, where one can get a bank loan using their land title, where people can access market fairly, you know, there are a number of exporters that one can take their coffee. That is why we don't want monopoly. So what would be the role of cooperatives into boosting or in the value chain of coffee?
Fine. Let's look at the entire coffee value chain, from production to marketing. You know, currently, cooperatives are providing agri-inputs to their members. How? Some of them now, they have nurseries, coffee nurseries, and they supply coffee seedlings to the farmers. And why is it good? It's good in the sense that you as a cooperative, you know your farmers better. You know, there was a time when the government was providing seedlings to the farmers. And we told the government, this is not the business of government. Give it to the cooperatives. The reason being, cooperatives understand their farmers better. They know Ivan or Robert is a coffee farmer. But not just taking coffee, you pile it on a sub-county and you call people to come and pick coffee seedlings. But the cooperatives know their farmers better. So they are into that. They are providing coffee seedlings to their farmers. They are providing other inputs like the fertilizers and pesticides. So they are into inputs. Then again, talk about aggregation, like I have mentioned. And this one started a long time ago, whereby I remember when I was a child, I used to take coffee to a society, cooperative society. So you would take the coffee to a society and then you get a receipt. The receipt, which is a warehouse receipt system. So the receipt would now be a cash equivalent. You would take this receipt, just a piece of paper like this, a receipt, and it was a cash equivalent. You would use it as school fees, you would use it in a hospital and any other. So that is the cooperatives. Some of them have stores, and these stores are used as aggregation centers. So that is another issue. Some of the cooperatives, like talk of Chibinge, you talked about Chibinge. Talk about Ankole Coffee Producers Cooperative Union, Bugis Cooperative Union, Sebei Eregon Cooperative Union. Talk of Mount Rwenzori Cooperative Union. Talk of Kigezi Cooperative Union. There are very many cooperative unions. Okoro Coffee in West Nile. They aggregate members' coffee, add some value, and then export it. So most of them now are into fair trade. And the beauty with fair trade is that you pay the first installment, you make the first payment, second payment, and there's also premium payment. Premium
which goes
payment,
back to the communities.
which goes back to the farmers.
Yes.
And if the cooperatives were not there, all of this profit would be going to a single buyer of coffee. That's the beauty with the cooperatives. So I want to really request the general public, stop being exploited. Work through cooperatives, because in the cooperatives, you have the first payment, the second payment, and then the premium payment. I will tell you, like Ankole Coffee, last year, I was following. Last year, they usually get this money towards Christmas. And you know, it's a Christmas package. You can imagine farmers getting over $1 billion as premium. And you find everybody is very happy they come to pick their money at their primary societies. But had they not been in cooperatives, all this money now will go to a single exporter. And you find a single exporter constructing arcades in Kampala when the farmers are very poor, dying in poverty in rural areas. So that's the beauty. Talk about agri-financing. Some of these cooperatives, of course, one, they have agricultural finance as a component. That if, Robert, you brought your coffee, or even before harvesting, and you need school fees, like the children have just gone back to school, then you don't need to struggle going to money lenders, but you'd rather get this money from your cooperative as an agricultural finance. Then when you harvest and aggregate your coffee, take your coffee to the store and they market, they would pay you minus the advance, which is a very good idea. Some of them are linked to the circles, you find, because that is called the tripartite model, the UCA tripartite model, whereby, Robert, you are a farmer, you belong to a circle, and you also belong to a cooperative of coffee. So if you need the money, you come to the circle and get advance. Then when you bulk your coffee with the society, they will pay you through the circle. The circle will deduct advance and you get your balance. This is a good model that needs to be adopted. But you find our farmers reaching an extent of selling gardens. Can you believe a farmer selling a garden even before ripening? But they are selling gardens because of poverty. And you know whom they are selling? To a middleman. This man who comes with the minzan, the weighing scale. So we need to stop this exploitation, and it is only the cooperative model that can handle this.
Very interesting, Ivan. When we talk about cooperatives, now I know farmers are there. But in the interest of time, as we wind up, Ivan, as you give us your final remarks, let's also look at the issue of mismanagement. You know, as the epitome body of these cooperatives, what are you going to do for mismanagement? I've had a number of cooperatives actually doing very well. But at the end of the day, when that premium comes, leadership of cooperatives, they're ever fighting. They achieve a milestone, they move back, then there comes in a setback. How do we ensure that cooperatives move smoothly? Because indeed, it is the way to go.
Thank you. What is needed most is enforcement of the law. The law is there. Cooperatives are guided by the Cooperative Societies Act. We have the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. We have the Registrar of Cooperatives. So UCA, working together with the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, we're ensuring that we address the challenge of mismanagement. And it has worked. If you can move down, you'll see that UCA and the Office of the Registrar of Cooperatives, we are doing a lot to make sure that we bring whoever perpetrators on board. And we really bring sanity and discipline in the cooperative movement. Before I finish, Robert, I really want to appreciate, one, Uganda Coffee Development Authority. As an agency of government, they have done a lot, and we work closely. We even have an MOU with them to support farmers to form or strengthen their farmer groups and cooperatives. I want to thank the government of Uganda through the different programs, especially in the Ministry of Agriculture. Currently, we are working on a program called the Agricultural Cluster Development Project, which is supporting coffee among other value chains. We also work together on the other program that was supporting farmers, coffee farmers. They were constructing storage facilities and even installing processing plants for the farmers. This is what we talked about. So government is addressing this, especially that program was called the Community Agriculture Infrastructure Improvement Program, CAIP, in the Ministry of Local Government, but it ended. And then I want to urge government, let us work together. Let us support farmers through cooperatives. There is no magic. I must tell you, I did economics. We have a lot of people who have done economics in this country. But to tell you frankly, for us to develop this country, we need to adopt the cooperative model. The other models have failed. You know all the development models. So the cooperative model works better in the sense that people work together. They love each other. They bring everything together. They sit on a table together. You know, you cannot succeed if people are not working together, if people don't love each other. And these are the values of cooperatives. Now, lastly, I know cooperators outside there must be wanting to listen to this, especially what has been appearing in the media, the agreement between the government of Uganda and the Vinci Company. As cooperatives, we also took our views to the Committee of Parliament, and I'm happy the Committee of Parliament has come up with a report, which I think they are presenting today. We don't want to go into the details, before the report, I know they have captured our views, but as cooperatives, we also consolidated our views through Uganda Cooperative Alliance, and then wrote to the Committee of Parliament. And I want to thank them. They really gave us time. They gave us the opportunity also to forward our views. And I think that they are coming up with possible solutions. What we want in the country, like we mentioned, we need to add value to our coffee. But what we need is a leveled ground along the coffee value chain.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you so much. That clearly says you're not for, you're against. But that brings us to the end of our program this morning. That is Good Morning Uganda Agenda segment. Next is the World of Sports with Ruben Mpima Kasera Chibirango. The coffee farmers, cooperatives is the way to go. Let's strengthen them. Let's give them the knowledge, the equipment, and we believe we shall shine. And at one day, reduce what we import as finished product, and now begin importing finished products from Uganda. Have a lovely day. Don't forget to take a cup of coffee. Let's also promote this culture. Domestic consumption is still so low at 1%. Let's begin taking coffee. Have a lovely day.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
We bring you